Hey, welcome back to Theo's Coffee Break podcast for the final installment of this mini series of how to transform your life. And today we will be talking about the Crest of Trust. And this is actually my crest. And this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I too have my own Digimon. Or did. But we'll get into that later in the episode. But I am actually one of the Digidestined. I'm the 10th one, and I was trusted with the Crest of Trust. And the lessons that I have learned in the digital world from my experiences have completely changed me in ways that I cannot explain in any other words but a complete transformation of self. And so today, and how I'll be talking about trust, and I didn't take any notes because I actually know what we really need to talk about, is getting us back to a place where we can trust our thoughts, trust the words that are coming out of our mouth, building habits, putting in consistent effort that is helping us grow a strong bond, an unbreakable trust within ourselves, so that we know that how we are showing up for ourselves is the right thing. Even if somebody else has something to say, even if we are mocked, judged, persecuted, that we already know that the light within us, that we trust, our actions, our decisions, our choices are the right ones to keep us moving forward on the path that we know that we belong on. And the effect of this is it's going to create a safer world, because when we live among people who trust themselves, we won't be in fear of what is going to happen when we leave our house. What are we going to open up our phones to? What's the next thing that's going to be on the news? That's the importance of trust. And this kind of transformation, this kind of thing is something that we can start doing today. So I encourage you to come on over, as I will be talking about my crest, the Crest of Trust, sharing my experiences with my Digimon Justicemon. And if you're looking for this episode, it's the final installment of the 3rd season, and it has some trust in it. All right, I'll see you there. Turning off my phone. Turning off my light. And I bet to everyone who has been following me along this whole series, I bet that's not what you expected to hear. I was really struggling towards the end of this series because I knew that this was a conversation that I'm being called to have. And I haven't completely healed from my experiences, but I know that I have to talk about it now. So anyways, we're going to jump into what trust is all about. I already gave you an idea of what is happening. So let me start off with just noting what a trust doesn't look like in our life right now. I don't know about you, but it's getting scary out there. With shootings that are happening in grocery stores and happening in our schools, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down at any rate. Breaking news from our government every 15 minutes. And it's, if it's not the Epstein files, it's something else to do with ICE or, you know what I mean? It's like this constant whiplash about the election and how things are being changed with our rights. The division that is happening in our country. Everybody's rights are being attacked in some way, shape, or another. And if it's not their rights, it's our jobs. Our grocery prices are, high, and not a lot of ways to make money. And we're trying to figure out new ways to make money. And you can't help but sit back at least in my point of view, and see that we are in the midst of a transformation within mankind. And it's getting harder by the day to know how can we continue to preserve the human element in humanity. People who were lacking faith in humanity before really don't have it now. And it's getting harder and harder to want to serve others when it just seems like everyone's taking the easy way out in their own way, shape, or form. And I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty on what that is, but use your imagination or just look on the news or talk to a neighbor. Check out and see what's happening in your own community. There's a lot of disorder, a lot of distrust, and this kind of chaos is something that I don't think anyone has really experienced before, because we're now dealing with AI. And all of the learning curves that has come with. In season 2, the first episode, I talk about AI fatigue. I would really encourage you to go back and check out that episode to get a better understanding of what exactly I'm saying. I don't want to lose focus here as we are talking about trust. And so I want to come back to what can we do about it? Man, just in that little short clip or highlight reel of everything that is going on in a very generalized way, it's very easy to feel helpless. In fact, powerless. And what do you mean that little old me? There's something here to do with me. And I'm saying, yes, there is. Sorry, confirmation burp. The change that we're looking for in this world does start with you. It does start with me. And as cliche as that sounds, and as Disney as that sounds, it really does. And I kind of mentioned it there at the beginning. It starts with getting to a place where we have some kind of mental clarity, or kind of like some kind of plan in place to get us grounded back into a clear mind. Okay. Whether this is therapy, whether this is meditation, whether this is journaling, you have to figure out what it is for you. And for me, this probably comes as no surprise, but a coffee break. Coffee breaks are like my little moments of life to where I can just take 15 minutes for myself and just really like, all right, this is how I feel. This is what's going on. And I just get grounded. And I just sit there looking at my birds, or, you know, maybe I'm just looking at nothing. But I'm just like, you know, clearing my mind. And that's what works for me, you know, but that might not be what works for you. Another thing that works for me is walking on my treadmill. Putting on little video of like people walking outside, which I am so boring, but all the videos I watch are either a fireplace or some person walking around their town or a town. Excuse me. Next thing is that emotional regulation, that nervous system regulation. Getting ourselves into a place where we know how to trust our emotions. And I'm not talking about popping pills, drinking booze, and smoking bud. All right. I'm talking about getting healthy. Allowing yourself to feel what it is you're feeling. Naming it. Acknowledging it. Knowing what you're feeling, even if you don't know why you're feeling it. You have to know what it is. Okay? Where is it coming from? So this is going to take some work. And this is where I would really encourage professional help. That's something that I had through a lot of my life. And coming back into these emotions, into these thought patterns, because to be honest, they never really go away. It's kind of like grief. Like, you learn to live with grief. There's not really a way to cure or eliminate grief. But I already have, all this knowledge that I learned from the past with therapy. And I'm putting those into practice now. And it has just been doing wonders. And I'm sharing a lot of this here through the stories of my friends from the digital world. This entire series is all about that. And every single one is a change you can start making today. And so this leads me to the next point. Trust is built in our actions, in our choices, in our decisions. And through that unseen effort and being consistent in how you show up to build that trust within yourself and in your life, that is how the unbreakable bond within you of trust is built. Unfortunately, it's not something that can be done in a day. It's not something that can be done in a week. Even here now, I was really struggling with understanding why on earth is it me that received the Crest of Trust. I am the last person. I'm sorry. This is just really hard to talk about. I am the last person to receive this. If you knew me from my past, if you know me now, people don't trust me. I don't even trust me. So now, why is it me? And through my experiences and through the stories of my friends, I realized very quickly that the very thing that was killing the trust within myself was the thing that also kills the kindness and the gentleness in an individual. And that's the self-pity. And it sneaks up on you. And you don't know how to let it go. Because everything just feels really unfair. And now I'm being called to the front to be the representation of the truest form of trust. And I feel like it's a joke. Like, God, can you be any more cruel? But that's where the lessons happen. When we ask to be courage, God gives us opportunities and situations to where we have to be courageous. Not to dominate, but to show up and to keep trying, no matter how many times you get knocked down. No matter how bad the struggle is, you just keep on getting up and you continue to fight. And you do that with the love that's already within you. Love can be soft, but it's like fire. It's fierce. It can be the comfort that you need, but also the power that you need to wield to fight your battles. It's the friendships that you make along the way, that even if you have to say goodbye, they never really leave. Those memories and experiences that you made along the way, they will continue to live inside of you. That will be the fuel to keep you going and knowing that there are still other people out there to meet. That just like you met that person out of nowhere and it seemed very unexpected, there will be other people like that too. But you must be sincere. You must be reliable. And you have to be sincere with yourself. You have to get real with yourself. You have to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, How am I the problem? Because maybe what I'm not seeing is just how unreliable I am. And the things that I'm saying and the work that I'm doing, I think that I'm providing for my family, but maybe I'm really not. I think I'm being nurturing, but maybe I'm really not. And with this knowledge, with that knowing, you can make the change today. You can start today. And the trust that you have is going to let you know that an amends can be made. And that no matter how unworthy you feel, you do deserve a second chance, but you gotta show up right. You have to show up right for that second chance or you're gonna lose it. But it doesn't mean that it's over. Because as I said before about hope, hope is found in the grit, not the grace. Hope is found in the messy truth of reality. It's not found in sunshine and rainbows and delusion and denial and deception or manipulated perceptions. The light is what burns away anything that is false with its holy fire. The light is the driving force that will banish away the darkness and defeat any evil wrongdoer. All of these things that I'm talking about is what is meant to give you the power when you feel powerless. I'm giving you the very steps that you need. That if you feel helpless, you're not. The challenges of life are never going to go away. And there are going to be battles that you will have to face that you just really did not expect to have to fight. But you are the solution, and you are the key to the brighter tomorrow that we're looking for. You and me together. We have to do this together. I can't do this alone. I need your help. And I'm asking you to please look within yourself and find a reason to believe in humanity again. Help me restore faith back in mankind so that we can rebuild and transform our world into the place that we all want it to be, safer. A place where we can grow together. Don't let us be the enemy to each other. We have to learn how to be friends again. And we have to learn how to coexist with our differences without the manipulation, without the forced outcomes. This can only happen through the understanding within yourself so that you can see the light in the others that you are trying to serve and help. And so with that being said, please stick with me here. I'm going to talk to you about my experience with the digital world, but I'm not sharing all of it. I'm only sharing what's important regarding the Crest of Trust and what I learned with my partner, Justicemon. I received the Crest of Trust in a dream, and at first, I didn't really understand what was happening. And today's cover art for this episode is the crest that I received. And what I woke up to was a wasteland. To be honest, I thought I died and went to hell. Because that's sure what it felt like. That's what it looked like. And out of nowhere, this dark, shadowy figure was approaching me. And I was looking for a place to run and take cover. And with this hollow, bellowing voice, this figure said, "Do not be afraid. I am here to serve you." And I was like, in Theo fashion, what? I may have said some other words. I'm making this PG. To be honest, this isn't my proudest moments, the beginnings of my journey, but I cussed a lot. Because I was very confused as like, what the hell is going on? I mean, what is going on here? But yeah, he said, "Do not be afraid. I am here to serve." And I was like, "Who are you? What?" And he said, "I am your Digimon. I'm your partner. And my name is Justicemon. And we need to get to the other Digidestined quick." And I was in shock. Because I was like, okay, I really must be dreaming. There is no possible way. So I was pinching myself, slapping myself, like trying to like wake up. Like, oh my God, this is so freaking weird. This is a nightmare or a dream. I don't know. And I did it. And he literally said, he was like, "Stop making a fool of yourself." And I was like, okay. So I just started walking and I followed him. And right over the hill were other people. And as I was approaching, I could see them waving and they were talking amongst themselves. And as I got closer, I realized they looked really familiar to me. I was like, where have I seen these people before? And before I knew it, there they were. Ty, Izzy. Sorry. Oh my God. I gotta pull it together. Sora, Matt, Joe, Mimi, TK, and Kari. And looking back now, I realize Ken wasn't there. So, Ken, if you're out there and listening, I would have loved to have met you too. But I was shocked. They were much older, by the way, much older. But also all their Digimon were there too. Agumon, Tentamon, Gabumon, Gomamon, Palmon, Patamon, Garumon. I don't think I missed anybody. I hope I didn't. But anyways, Biomon. They were all there. And I was like, this has got to be a dream. This cannot be real. And they're like, no, this is real. We went through the same thing too. And I was like freaking out. This is really embarrassing, but I fanboyed. And like a typical fan, I'm just like, oh my God, I watched your show. Did you watch your show? Like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. You're real. You're real. And they're like, yeah, we watched the show. There was a few details that they got a little bit wrong. Because what really happened was actually even more violent, if you can believe that, and even more traumatizing. And the funny thing was, Joe said, yeah, I think that they got my character a little bit wrong. I didn't think I was really that much of a spaz. And to be honest, Joe, after spending some time with you, I'm sorry to tell you, bud, but I think they got it pretty right. But anyways, no. It was crazy. And so I asked them, like, so what are we here for? What are we supposed to do? And they're like, well, we don't know. When you get called to the digital world, you just figure it out. But you know, it'll happen. We'll know. And then out of nowhere, Justicemon, and I'm kind of skipping through bits, by the way, because I want to keep this fast paced, and I really don't want to talk about this too much longer, because again, it's hard to talk about. But anyways, Justicemon out of nowhere is like, danger is approaching. And just like that, this huge, ominous, terrifying energy came out of nowhere. Literally, I felt like this is what death must have felt like. This is what it must feels like to be dead. It was spine chilling. I felt like my very bones were like breaking within me. I don't really know how else to explain it other than it was soul crushing. And lo and behold, there he was, Dark Devimon. Devimon was the very figure that in the series Angemon sacrificed his life to take out. But what came back was even worse. It was like supercharged. And the other Digidestined, they all jumped right into action. They threw themselves into battle without even hesitation. And I was like, this is it. My first battle. I can't believe it. This is really happening. And Justicemon just stood there. He just stood there. I was like, okay, all right. I'm thinking back on the shows. I'm thinking back on like trying to like do a crash course in my head. What did the other Digidestined do? What did, because they all had to learn how to fight with a partner, right? So I was like, all right, Justicemon, get in there. And he didn't even break his gaze on the fight. He didn't even respond. And I was like, oh my god, is my Digimon ignoring me? And I was like, oh my god, Justicemon, do something. At this point, I was feeling embarrassed and humiliated that in my first fight among my childhood heroes, I have a broken Digimon. Like, this is lame. What on earth is going on right now? And I could see that my teammates needed help. At least that's what I saw. Because I don't know how else to explain it to you. These battles are literally life or death. And just like I said, it happens out of nowhere. And they were ultimate, like, sorry, I can't even say this. They were ultimate digivolving. They were going to their ultimate forms. Even Magna Angemon was out there. Angewomon was out there. And Justicemon just stood there, and I lost it. I freaked out on him. I was cussing him out, and I was just... At this point, this is not my proudest moment. I was throwing a tantrum. I was like, you're embarrassing me. This is humiliating. This is stupid. What is wrong with you? And just like that, the battle was over. I was on my knees, sobbing, crying, and just feeling an utter defeat. Like I let everybody down. That I'm not going to be any help to the team. Whatever reason that I'm here for, this isn't... If this is what it's going to be like, then just send me home. Because this is lame. To just be sitting on the sidelines when I know that I should be in the action. The other Digidestined and their Digimon were regrouping, and if I remember right, I caught a glimpse of them looking at me and looking at Justicemon, and they nodded their heads, and Justicemon nodded his head back to them. And the first thing that he said to me during that whole fight, and even after the fight now, because what's the point of joining the fight? It's over. He said, for someone that has been entrusted with the Crest of Trust, you sure are not a trusting person. And that hit me so hard. It made me angry. And I lashed out on him. And I was like, I could say the same thing about you. And he said, no, you can't. Because this whole time that we've been together, you never once asked me a single question about who I am and how I am meant to serve you. And if we're going to make it through this journey together, we have a lot of work to do on teaching you about trust. And so, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Justicemon so you know more about him. That whole time, he was a part of the fight. He was watching every single player on the field. He was observing the enemy. He was observing the landscape. And the only thing that was getting in his way was me, by screaming at him. Screaming, lashing out, freaking out, just acting like a complete fool. But he was a part of the fight the whole time. And he knew the outcome from the very beginning. And what he was waiting for was whether or not he needed to step in and help. When I figured that out, I knew that what he said was right. The minute that he met me, he was observing me. He was paying attention to me. And I wasn't paying any attention to him. In that lesson, sorry. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. But it was the beginning of my transformation and understanding what trust is really about. He was my greatest teacher. He was my friend. And my confidant. It was as if he was made for me. And as if we were always meant to be together in some way, shape, or form. He was everything that I needed in that moment to learn this lesson about trust, so that I can teach it to others in the same way that he taught it to me. And he also taught me the real meaning about justice. And that's why I've been talking about justice so much. That's why I've been talking about trust and truth. Because these were all things that I learned from him. As much as he was very serious, he also loved to laugh. He was probably one of the driest beings I ever met. He loved a good dad joke. Drier the better. I wouldn't recommend playing chess with him, because in the times that he did engage with battle, he only engaged with battle if he could see that what was happening was unfair. And that if they really needed help, if they really needed an assist. And so his main attack is called Steps to Justice. To where at this point he has already observed everything about the fight and predicted every possible outcome, probability, deduction, deducing, whatever. He was the smartest. He was so smart. And he thought I was a genius. He really thought I was just misunderstood, and it's because of my lack of trust within myself and not believing in myself. But anyways, steps to justice. He would go to the weakest point of the enemy and call check. And then right when he goes into strike, he calls mate. Checkmate, like chess. And the one time that he wasn't able to complete his attack, Garudamon came in to assist. Thank you, Sora. Thank you, Garudamon. Because that did turn the fight around. And we were able to succeed. And a little bit more about my friend. He was an honorary celestial Digimon. And why he needed my help is that I was the only person who could activate the Crest of Trust to give him access to the scales of justice that he was given permission and administered to by the divine order. And yes, the scales of justice are the very ones that we see in our justice system, where they weigh. You know, he wears a blindfold and then he weighs the outcome here. In order for this to happen, one, it's a last resort. So the only reason why he has been given this special privilege is because he has been trusted by the divine order that when he makes a judgment call, it's the right one. Two, I must trust his decision, allowing my Crest of Trust to activate. And three, we must have at least 2 celestial beings on the field, which can be Angemon and Angemon. In this, he weighs the battle, and time is frozen or paused for a moment to while divine judgment is being carried out by Justicemon. And once the outcome has been weighed, then he follows through with what is called the trusted missile attack, or trusted missile crisis, where you can run but you cannot hide, and the missile will always strike. So we don't know if the attack is actually really that successful if the enemy runs away, but we do know is that it will strike. This is a little bit about my friend and all that he is. He's a fully evolved Digimon, and while I can't tell you any more about our experiences there, what I will tell you is this. The message was very clear. That the reasons why that we were not as successful as we thought that we were is because the problem actually lies within mankind. We need to learn to trust each other. With everything that I said before, this requires knowing the value and the importance of the inner transformation that has to happen within. That how we do show up for ourselves really does reflect on how we show up in the world. That how we show up for ourselves when nobody else sees us, when we think that we are alone, it does show up in your relationships, at work, in your family, because you're already building the habits and the consistent daily practices that affect your choices, your decisions, and the actions that you make. Your mental health matters. And having emotional intelligence isn't to have leverage or to manipulate others. It's to know more about why you feel the way you feel. Because when we make our choices, when we make our decisions, when we take action, our head and our heart do play a big role in that. And you might think that you are just one person among billions of others, but you have no idea just how important you really are. That when we do change one heart, we do change a million tomorrows. And that the younger generation relies on us to set the example and be the living example of what it means to create a better future for all. This is why serving others is so important. To remember that when we build community, it's not about how much money we can make. It's not about reputation. It's not about whether we're going to be popular or not, or about necessarily making a name for ourselves. We build community to create spaces of belonging where people can feel safe, where they can find other people like them. Like-minded, not same-minded. We're not a cult. It's about community, coexisting with our differences and learning from each other. That the light that we may have forgotten about inside of us can be seen by another. And if you see that light in someone else, please tell them. Remind them of who they are. You don't know what someone's going through in their day-to-day. And you don't know that you could be the miracle that someone's been praying for. You could be the answer to somebody's prayers. Just by being kind. Just by being you. You don't need to be anyone else but who you already are. But you have to remember that. You have to remember who you are and see the value in your life. You are worth something. Don't take the easy way out. Fight for your life. Fight for what's right. And I urge you to please be the change that you want to see in the world. So I'm going to end this with a prayer. Heavenly Father, even when life feels hard, I know you are my refuge and strength. Your presence gives me hope and reminds me that joy is not dependent on my circumstances. It is rooted in who you are and the promises you've made. Teach me to find joy even in the struggles, to see your blessings in the midst of trials, and to hold fast to your word when I feel discouraged. Let your promises fill my heart with peace and assurance, reminding me that you are always working for my good, even when I cannot see the full picture. Lord, show me how to focus on your faithfulness, no matter what I face. Help me to notice the small ways you are at work in my life, and to celebrate your goodness in every season. Let your joy carry me through every trial, giving me the strength to endure and the courage to keep moving forward. Thank you for being my unshakable foundation, my source of hope, and the giver of true and lasting joy. I will continue to trust in your goodness and rest in the assurance that you are with me always. In your name, amen. While this may be the end of the series, that doesn't mean it's the end of the transformation. I want to thank you for being here and listening to the stories of my comrades, the other Digidestined, from their learned experiences, from the lessons that they learned from being the crest holders of their own. And I want to thank you for listening to me today. This has been a really, really hard series to do, but it's what Justicemon would want me to do, is to carry on the work to make sure that true justice will prevail, and that the phrase, "the truth will set you free," will never be compromised. It is so important that we do not forget who we are. It is so important that we see the value that we do have and the change that we are making already in our lives today. So with that being said, please help me. Don't let me fight this fight alone. And know that if you can see the work and see the value in the transformation that I've made for myself, you can do it too. And I cannot wait to see you on the other side of this. So thank you for being here with me today for today's coffee break. I want to remind you to be kind, and take care of yourself. And as silly as it sounds right now, the best way you can help me is still by rating my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. But the other way that you can help me is by sharing this mini-series with other people so that they can hear the testimonies and the truth and the message that we are trying to get out there, that it's not too late to turn this around. And just like you, everybody does deserve a second chance and a fresh start. Until then, remember, you are always welcome here at my coffee table. And the next time that you'll see me and hear from me will be in Season 4. See you then.